Welcome back to Myth, Legends, and Truths with Bart and Ari.
That's me.
And today is the first day for the 31 days of Halloween. You know, the movies, our
That's
movie
right.
list.
You guys are going to get a movie for recommendation from us for 31 days to get you ready for Halloween.
So we're going to start with number one, which is a classic.
Yep.
The Exorcist.
That's right. If you haven't seen this movie, this is a must.
So
This is a must.
keep in mind, this movie was made, it released in 1973.
1973. Yep.
So just think about, what the technology was at that time as far as the movie effects. Also think about that. I want to say that this day and age, because we're so exposed to so much content, social media, the new graphics and everything for movies, like we're kind of desensitized,
Right.
in a way. So just imagine maybe 1973, they weren't used to seeing stuff like that, like what was portrayed in the movie The Exorcist.
Right. It's been almost 50 years since this movie was released. It's been 49 years to be exact, right?
Yeah. So just, have someone kind of mention it, just kind of think of it in that 1973, mindset, of they just weren't used to seeing stuff like that. The graphics and storylines definitely have changed, but I have a lot of information on this that I'm happy to share, but Bart can start first on your experience and what you think about the movie.
Well, having been raised Catholic, I always had this fear of the devil and all that kind of crazy bullshit. But this movie took this to the next level with the Exorcist and the way they took a priest and put him to go take the devil out of this little girl. That, for me, just was freaky.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you see this little girl on screen and you might see her, and many of you, might think, oh, she looks like, my daughter. She looks like my sister. She looks like, so many people can relate to this family, can relate to this little girl on screen, and then to see all the things that they go through and her transformation on screen, her face, the way it's all cut up, her eyes,
the way she would crawl up the wall.
yeah, and just, the voice, the changes, the voice was just really freaky.
Well, one thing's for sure, this movie scared the little shit out of a lot of people.
It really did. So I mean, from what I've read, many people were completely shocked and disturbed when they went to see this movie in the movie theater. There were reports of people having seizures, heart attacks, coming out of there nauseated, vomiting. A lot of people had some true physical effects coming out of this movie.
Well, was there any truth to this movie?
So from what I saw, so I'll get into kind of like what I learned about the history and what was the inspiration for the author. One thing that I kind of wanted to mention before all of this, the whole thing about people getting physically sick in the theater, and then all the rumors surrounding this movie. There were a lot of deaths and everything. So there were about 2 actors that were scripted to die in the movie that actually passed away in real life during the post-production phase of the movie. And then on top of that, there were 7 other cast and crew members that died, either natural causes or unexplained causes before the movie was even released. So hearing all those things, surrounding this movie, just kind of keeping that in mind, and then watching this movie, it was just, it just brings it up to a whole new level.
Right.
When it comes to, how scary, how much it can scare you.
Yeah, I mean, this movie doesn't really need any introduction. If you just hear the Exorcist, you know that you're in for a ride. You know that this movie's going to scare the shit out of you. Most importantly, there's still a lot to go with this movie. There's a lot of, I read that once religious people, Catholics and all that, they did not allow their kids to watch the movie simply because of religious reasons.
Oh yeah, I think there were a lot of yeah, like you said, people just on strike. They didn't want their family members watching it. They were saying, it's the devil's work. I mean,
Right.
the people who didn't see or haven't seen the movie, a lot of them are probably because their families did not allow, or religious beliefs. It's just won't allow them to see stuff like that. No interest and just fear of it. But from what I understand, this movie was based on a book. And the author of the book was William Peter Blatty. And the book was the same name, The Exorcist. So his idea for the book, or this whole storyline, was inspired by actual events, an actual exorcism that took place in Cottage City, Maryland in 1949. And it happened to this boy named Roland Doe, or also known as Bobby. He was the child possessed, so they changed it from a boy to a girl.
Okay.
I don't know if the age range was about the same or not, but the boy grew up in a German Lutheran family, and he became interested in the occult, like a lot of us, mainly the Ouija board. And if you know, back in that time, I think the 1920s, 30s, 40s, around there was a big spiritual movement. People were heavily believing in spiritualism. They were dabbling with the Ouija board and doing a lot of stuff. So there was a lot of infatuation with that. And he had an aunt that was a spiritualist, and her name was Harriet, and she introduced him to the Ouija board. Now, I don't know the timeline, but she passed away. And after she passed, the whole family started experiencing all these things happening around the house, like all these noises. They're seeing objects being thrown around the room, the boys being levitated. So that was basically the first stage of possession, which is known as the infestation stage, which is what this author took, from that those documented events, and he put that into the movie. So in the movie, you'll see a lot of that stuff happening, the noises and the levitation and all that stuff. He took that from those accounts.
And that was from 19 what again?
1949.
Okay, because I thought you said 1929 and 1939.
Well, I was saying in the 1920s and 30s, there was a big movement with the spiritualism.
Right.
Possibly even before that. I forget the exact dates, but there was a huge movement of spiritualism, which is why I brought up those dates.
Yeah, and if you look back at history, 1929 to 1939, what was going on in the U.S., we had the Great Depression. So not only did we suffer from not having enough food and all that, but there was a lot of people just praying to God, just bring me anything I want to eat. Get me out of the shithole that I'm in. So there was a lot of people just leaning towards religion and stuff like that, just for that main reason. So you see the whole connection there.
Yeah, and so that wasn't the only thing that inspired his book. His inspiration also came from the Loudon possessions of 1634. Loudon possessions. Did you ever hear about that?
No.
So this is a crazy story, and this could be a whole show in itself. So with the Loudon possessions, again, it's insane. This is such a good one to really, dive into and talk about all the crazy details. I'm just going to give a quick summary.
Go.
But this was a mass possession of a group of nuns. So these nuns in this convent, there was a new priest that had arrived, and he was an attractive priest. And one nun started having illicit dreams, and another. So all these groups of nuns are having these illicit sexual dreams, about this attractive priest. And so they reported that all these nuns, they documented that all these nuns were possessed and that they needed a mass exorcism. and they got all these priests and everything to try to exorcise these nuns. So he got the inspiration of the behaviors that the girl in The Exorcist displayed based on these accounts. So like the aversion to the crucifix, the convulsions, the sexual motions towards the priests and everything, all that was documented during, all these exorcisms of these nuns. So that's what he used, to portray that. He portrayed that in his book, and in the movie. Now, the interesting thing about, this story that has nothing to do with the movie is, just kind of finish out the summary of that story. The attractive priest that all these women were having illicit dreams about and everything, he ended up being imprisoned and tortured because they believed that, he was doing the devil's work, or he was the one that was possessing,
Wow.
All these nuns and everything. And he tried to clear his name, and he had joined in on the exorcism also, but he was tortured and he was burned at the stake.
Jesus Christ.
So poor guy,
Yeah, Jesus Christ.
But anyway, I mean, this movie, the making, the inspiration for this movie, it's just interesting. There's a lot of history and stuff there, to keep you entertained, basically.
Yeah, and then when you watch this movie, you gotta understand this movie is 49 years old, about to be 50 years old. So put yourself in the mindset of, you know what, this is not today's gimmick, with the whole green screen in the back and all that. This is old-fashioned, good, hardcore horror movie where they had all the right props and all that, even when the little girl's throwing up and all that.
Oh, yeah, pea soup.
It was a pea soup and all that. So, it's not done in a lab. Yeah. What I mean by that is it's not computerized. This is all done
true
legit.
Acting.
So put yourself back into that mode and just enjoy.
And this
the
little
movie.
girl, I don't know how much of it was done by the little girl, and if they use like any stunt doubles or something to do this. I would have to look into that a little bit further, but to think of and see this little girl on screen and that transformation and see all that demonic stuff, I mean, that's scary. It's like something about, when you see it, the adults being put through this, it's like, okay, but when you see like the kids being put through this, like, it's just,
it makes it not just a great horror film, but just a great film overall. It just brings that whole life into just, don't focus on it just being a horror film. It is, and you're going to see a lot of it in this movie, the horror aspect of it, but it's just a great film, and the way that it was done is priceless.
Yeah, how everything was put together, and how hard these crew members worked to put all the props and everything together, with what they had. It was just awesome. But yeah, it just hits so close to home, especially if you are religious. You're very deep in your faith, and in the Bible, there is mention of the devil and demons and stuff like that. So then, I think that was really one of the first movies to really put that out there and take some of those documented exorcisms in the past and just
bring it to life.
Bring it to life into the big screen. So
now, do you remember what happened when me and you went to theaters to watch this movie again?
So we went to watch the remake. Of it. They didn't remake the whole thing. They just kind of, touched it up with today's technology, made it a little more vivid, and added some scenes to it. And I could honestly say so first of all, before we even went to see the movie, the previews, the trailers that were being aired on TV. I mean, I'd just be there watching a regular show, family show or whatever, and then all of a sudden comes this trailer, and you see her face, and you hear, that crazy demonic voice coming out of her, and that alone still continued to scare me as an adult. I remember that would pop up, and I would just lower the volume, and I would just get so frustrated, like this trailer's just popping up out of nowhere. I'm in the middle of watching all this stuff, or I'm alone at night, and then all of a sudden this pops up on the TV screen, and I would mute the screen or try to change the channel. It still freaked me out. But you thought it was funny.
I thought it was funny because it kind of, I went in there with the expectation of getting the shit scared out of me. Because when I saw it, I was 8 or 9 years old, and I was scared shitless. Then, I don't know why me and you decided to go watch the movie again in the theater, but we did, and it wasn't as scary, but it was humorous in a way for me.
It wasn't humorous for me. I think it was still scary. Like, I still had issues sleeping after that. And of
Really?
course, it's
after
not,
we were adults? So
yeah, even after, because it's just scary to think that, there's a whole spiritual world out there, that demons do exist and can possess people. And, I think if you guys hear back on my story about the possession and the next door neighbor, that I went through that experience. Yeah. And then here we are years later as adults, going to see. I mean, it wasn't that much. We were probably like 20 or 21.
When we saw it again?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't remember exactly the age, but I think it was pre-kids or something. I don't know. And our kids, not just kids.
Yeah, not our kids. We got two amazing kids.
Before having kids.
But when I said it was humorous.
But it still scared me. I still thought, it was freaky. It wasn't as scary as, me seeing it for the first time when I was 12 years old.
Let me clarify that. I think I need to clarify that. I think when I said that it was humorous, it was because a part of me was like, I can't believe I was so scared of this when I was growing up. Like, damn, I was so scared. I couldn't sleep.
Right, because at that point we were looking at the effects.
Right.
We're looking at the effects and the props, and it's like, oh man, look at that. Like, oh, I can't believe, that like you said, like that scared me.
The shit out of me.
We're looking at it through the lens of, that time.
And also, we're more accustomed now to seeing all this other gore shit.
Right.
And
we've seen a lot
like you
worse
said, we've been,
but
desensitized.
I still feel like because of, because I saw it so young, because it did scare me at the time, because of some of the other stories and stuff I've read out there, about possession, demonic possession and things like that. The movie itself alone is not, what scares me in itself. It's that possibility.
The concept
of it. The concept of it, that idea, and also, his inspiration. This was these were documented possessions. That's he put that into life. So imagine, those people that actually went through that documented that.
So what do you rate it from 1 through 5? And the Ari M. Bar
scary scale?
Yeah.
That's honestly, The Exorcist to this day is still the movie that I rate every other movie against.
A 5.
A 5. It's not, and again, it's not just, that the props and the special effects and all that. It's overall, how it makes me feel, and overall, that it just creeps me out, the whole demonic possession thing.
I think there's two things that really get me. Those movies, like the one, the movies like The Exorcist, and the one with the zombies. Like, what's the one with Brad Pitt that...
World War Z?
Yes, because I'm thinking, you know what? That's a possibility. That could definitely happen. So World War Z, and the one with Will Smith, I forgot the name right now. I Am Legend.
And that, I like that show. If you guys haven't seen that show on Netflix, All of Us Are Dead. Like, the Koreans are really killing it right now with all the zombie and horror films. The Train to Busan.
Yeah, that's another one that made it to our list.
Right, too. And the fact that they tie it into science. They made some kind of agent, to I don't know, just in case for war
or something to cure mankind.
Yeah.
It just turns them into zombies.
And it turns them into something else. The Kingdom was also
The Kingdom. I wonder if they got part 2 yet. No, they don't.
They did, I think, 2 seasons, but 3. I haven't seen a 3rd season. Okay. That was another really good one, too, because their zombies were a little different.
So those movies really get me. The religious ones and the zombie ones. I'm like, zombies. Wait, that's a possibility.
The zombies, not so much for me, but I remember... when several years ago, I don't know how many years ago, when that whole thing was coming out with the bath salts, those drugs
Yeah.
that people were posting videos of other people that they would see in the street that were all drugged out on this, and their behavior was like zombie like they were on the floor, their bodies are like being all contorted, and they're like foaming at the mouth, and they're one person got attacked by one of these people. They got bit, these people were like biting, like they wanted blood.
Well, let's not share the whole thing when we go into the other zombie movies that
we have the zombie movie, so
yes.
That's one thing that we have to hold on for that. But I hope you like this episode, and if you have any ideas or comments, anything you want to share about The Exorcist, definitely let us know. We're interested in knowing what you think.
Yeah, definitely share with us. We'll be more than happy to hear and answer back to you guys. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to our channel. Thank you guys once again. And this is the first out of 31. So now we just got 30 to go.
Yep.
Catch you guys in the next one.